back in 2018, my family and I decided that we were going to separate. So my sister and I moved to what was called Washingtonville, Pennsylvania. It was 153 miles away from home. Now, at the time, we were kind of all over the place with the packing. We were like on a time schedule. Everything had to happen and move quickly. So we move in with one of my other sisters who was already living up there. Now, this is where I messed up. I didn't know what Washingtonville, Pennsylvania looked like. Why did I think there was going to be a Starbucks there? I'll never know. But all I can say is imagine in your mind the old Western movies. And on the main street, how they usually have like a saloon and then a tumbleweed kind of blows by. That's what this town looked like. And if you Google the population, you can see why. So we move up there, and I was told that my sister would take me back and forth to work with her because we worked in the same general area. So it didn't really matter if I had my car or not. No, at the time I didn't have enough faith in my first car ever, my baby Desdemona. I didn't have enough faith in her, so I got rid of her before we took that drive, and we went up there to live. Now, after several months of being there and going back and forth, we, as sisters, we have our spats. Well, some of these spats got to the point where my sister refused to take me to work, right? So the thing about living 153 miles away in a tiny little town is they don't have no Lyft drivers and no Uber drivers. And I had a job to get to. So I took it upon myself, because it's the only way I saw out, the first time I did it, I walked. To walk to work. This was a 5-hour walk at about 5 o'clock in the morning to get to work by about 10:30, work a 9-hour shift, and then pray that there was some sort of way to get home. Now, initially, you'd say, wow, you must really hate your sister and all of these things. What kind of sister is that? I'm sure that these type of phrases come up in anybody's head. And for a while, I absolutely did. I can absolutely tell you that she just disgusted me because I would never do that to her. But one thing that I learned very quickly is, number one, you can never expect you from somebody else. That's number one. Number two, she didn't owe me anything. I was an adult making a decision. I chose to be there. I chose to sell my car. I chose to trust in her. All of these things were my mistakes. Now, had it been one of my other sisters and myself, it wouldn't have played out that way. But again, I cannot expect me from anybody else. So I do take full responsibility for that. Now, let me bring you to the beautiful part. Welcome back to the last drop, where today we're serving up forgiveness brew. After doing that a few times, I did have someone that I could depend on that took me to buy a bike. And we went and we bought like a $300 bike, and I began to ride to work it took 3 hours. I began to ride to work for 3 hours early in the morning. I would put on several pairs of clothes. This was like late November, early December, and ride my bike to work to then again work a 9-hour shift and pray to God there was some way to get home. So on those walks, I had a lot of time to listen to, this is when I got Audible. Shout out to Audible. I love Audible. This is when I had gotten Audible and Tiffany Haddish's book came out. The Last Black Unicorn, as well as Jennifer Lawrence's book had dropped. And that's a very long book because she's lived a very long life. It's a memoir, autobiography. And while listening to these, I listen to them tell their stories of their lives. Let's talk about Tiffany Haddish in particular because she's a stand-up comedian and actress. I listened to her story about her life as I went through my story in my life. I listened to her speak about having inappropriate escapades with adults that were not warranted. I listened to her speak about going from foster family to foster family. And in listening to that and taking these walks and crying about my own story that was being written out in that moment, I realized that my resilience would one day be the story. It's not about what someone did to me or how I was left to deal with a situation. It's how I dealt with it. And I showed myself that I was so resilient to take that walk, to do that thing that the average person wouldn't have done. I wanted to cop out. It wasn't like I was walking through a town either, y'all. I was walking on the highway. And it was like, imagine seeing a bunch of rolling hills. And once you reach the top of the rolling hill, what I was looking for, ironically enough, what I was looking for was the golden arches. Once I could get to McDonald's, I had Wi-Fi, so I could stop, get some coffee, use the Wi-Fi, and then it would be another hour until I got to the job. But once I got to McDonald's, it was like the safe zone. Now, on the walk, there are several times where you can see the rolling hills. And initially, I told myself, well, once I get up to the first rolling hill, the McDonald's is right there. I know it's right there. On this walk, I had that same conversation with myself 3 times. 3 times I got to the top of that distant hill to only see another hill, no golden arches, just another hill. And I just kept telling myself, you can't turn back. You got to go to work. First hill. You can't turn back. You're halfway there. It has to be the next one. Second hill. Keep going. Third hill. Golden arches. It's those moments of misery that build character. It's those moments of depending on your own body and God that build that relationship. They open the conversations that you need to have in order to have the faith to fight a Goliath. I didn't fight anything. I walked for a very long time. And let me tell you the irony of all this walking, right? One day I'm walking, and this is like the initial part of the walk, maybe an hour in. I'm walking, and down the hill comes an Amish man in a cart with a big horse. It was a black horse and a big black hat, and the buggy had blinkers on it. And I'm looking at him in shock, like, there's people riding horses around here? This horse and buggy has blinkers? And he's looking at me like, this girl is walking up these hills. Like the irony of me seeing him and him seeing me, and me knowing that I should probably invest in a horse, like ASAP. In that moment, there was a lot of resentment formed, a lot of things I had to get over. And I held that for years. It's 2023. I'm telling you, I probably just got over it this year. That's 5 years of holding on to something because it made my life miserable. However, in hindsight, I do have to give my sister grace and respect for holding her boundary. So, oftentimes, I say forgiveness is like the big O, like the big O. People tell you what it's like once they've done it, and they tell you how great it is and how you're going to experience this, that, and the third. But until you actually have the big O, or forgiveness, you don't know what that's like. You're just assuming, and you're trying to do the things that these people told you that they did to achieve it. You're trying to get there. So you're kind of just emulating, doing all of the things that they're telling you help. I'm here to tell you that time is the most effective way. Don't rush it. Feel all your feelings all the way through. It's going to take time to get out of your own way and to be able to empathize with these people that have hurt you, with these situations that were unfair to you, cruel even. It takes time to even want to see someone else's perspective. However, And as you just heard how I told the story, if you would have asked me this story even last year, it wouldn't have sounded like this. And 4 years ago, it wouldn't have sounded anything like that. It would have been a she, and I had to do this. Rather than, it's not about her. It's not about the person that hurt you. It's about you and what these situations reveal about you to you. And it might not always be so beautiful. But then again, I've had 5 years to marinate and find the beauty in that. It was ugly. It was ugly. December of last year, it was still ugly. So imagine 2018, me telling the story back. Now, Tiffany Montgomery on the Social Proof podcast tells a story about having a callus. And in her story, she's talking about how you need the callus in order to deal with negative backlash for the things that you say. As you know, she had a whole sermon situation going on about Beyonce and witchcraft, right? And so you can understand why she needs that callus in order to take on all the negative things that the Beehive is going to say to her. And she believes that that callus, which was built up over time in her life, helps her in her today's life. I'm going to take it a little bit of a different situation, but she's definitely my inspiration. So I do pole dancing. Let me just touch on that a little bit, right? When I was a kid, my mom told me I couldn't dance. When I started going to therapy, I told my therapist about this and she said, well, change the narrative. I said, okay, so what did I do? I signed up for a pole dancing class. I say all this to say, parents, be careful what you tell your kids because they will end up on a pole. I signed up for a year of pole dancing, paid for it in full, and I have committed to doing a year of pole dancing. Now, in this time, I also still live my best life, and I take vacations and visit all kinds of spas and such. I discovered something awesome called a Korean body scrub. Now, this process is awesome. So you lay on a table, and they put the scrub on you, and they scrub every single part of your body. They don't miss a single part. And they put on these gloves that feel like a cat's tongue. That's the best way I can describe them. And they rub your entire body everywhere. Nothing is off limits, okay? You just gotta lay there. Then they pour all this warm water on you. It's an amazing experience. If you're comfortable being nude or uncomfortable, because we should test our limits, right? Get a Korean body scrub ASAP so you can experience what I've experienced. It's amazing. So I got my first one ever. And then after the vacation, I had to return back to my regularly programmed scheduling. Schedule program? You know what I mean. And I went back to pole dancing class. So I get to pole dancing class. I pull myself up onto the pole and I do a pole sit, which is like you kind of cross your legs and the pole gets stuck in between your legs. The crease in between your legs is what is holding the pole. Pole dancers are awesome. Fun fact about pole dancing, you can't wear lotion. That's why strippers wear glitter, so they look moisturized. If you wear lotion, you're gonna slip, right? And back to the callus. You also need the callus that you build between your legs to hold the pole. After getting a Korean body scrub, me and that lady got real close, okay? There was no callus there. So I couldn't sit on the pole anymore. And in order to do most moves in the air, you have to at least be able to sit, right? I say all this to say that callus served me. It's okay that it's not, that part of my body won't be as soft as the rest of it. I need that to do what I do. It helps me to be better at what I'm trying to do. Right? Trauma is very much like that. Some of it still serves you. Some of it can still serve. However, not all of it does. A callus on my foot does not help me become a better pole dancer. I can get rid of it. But a callus in that particular area of my body helps me. And I need it. And I try to develop it and make it work for me better. There are ways that I could go about making it like soft enough to be touched, but like hard enough to hold me up. Me getting rid of it completely might not serve me anymore. And in all honesty, with trauma, you can't really get rid of it completely. We do the work, we do our best, and we get it to be as small as possible. but to eliminate it altogether is a little unrealistic. So that's where forgiveness comes in, knowing which callus serves you and which one doesn't. And a lot of times they don't serve you. You need to try to forgive. And it's not forgetting. They always say forgive and forget. It's not forgetting. It's not letting that experience hold you captive. Remember, you forgive others like you forgive yourself. And forgiveness from others requires accountability and empathy. Let me tell you another story. Okay, so that same sister, let's work on our empathy here and get a little revenge, because I love telling this story. That same sister and I had an encounter when we were younger. We were outside playing with no shoes on in the grass, right? And we lived in like a duplex home, and there was a driveway, one of those rock driveways. It wasn't gravel, it was just loose rocks. We're in the backyard with no shoes on, playing around. We had a tire swing that would often get disconnected from the tree. We would fly in a tire. It was great. My childhood was amazing. And we had this bat and a grill. Inside the grill was a bee's nest. Actually, I'm wrong. It was a wasp nest. Now, we didn't know that as kids. We just saw it and we're like, we're not doing anything else. My mom was in the kitchen preparing dinner, and we're outside with this bat. And we hit the grill a little bit, and the bees came out, the wasps, don't forget that part, came out and went back in. And we're like, Now, I don't know whose bright idea it was, but let's just give it 50-50. Let's give it 50-50 in that area. We decide we are going to hit this grill so hard with this bat. So I don't know who hit the grill. I don't remember. All I know is the grill got hit. I guess it shook up the nest enough, and all of the wasps came out in a unit and chased us. Yes, now mind you, again, we have no shoes on, and our driveway is all rocks. So we're running across the rocks to try to get back in the house. We get to the front door of the house. I get in first. I go into the house and I shut the door behind me. Dominique, why did you do that? I was trying to protect the family. I didn't want the wasps to come in the house because then mommy would get mad if she got stung, and then it would be even worse on us. So I shut the door on my sister. And Shania, I'm so sorry. And she continued to scream. And she continued to scream, and she she ran off the porch screaming, hands flailing, running around the house. I run into the kitchen, and I say, Mommy, there's wasps chasing Shania. And we look over to the right, through the window, and you can see her walking across the rocks with no shoes on, and it's just all these bees. And she's screaming and crying, and it was just... You can tell from my reaction, she gonna hate watching this video. But I say all that to say, that day that I shut the door on her, right? We're exercising empathy. And in order to receive forgiveness, the day that I shut the door on her, while we were both being chased by bees, we both made wasps. We both made the decision to hit that grill. And I got in first and shut the door on her and left her outside with all those wasps, right? You can imagine the way that I destroyed the trust in that moment. The way that unforgiveness must have taken over. She had to go to the hospital. Come to find out she was allergic. She got stung that many times. It was terrible. Yeah. And she already had asthma and she was running around. I'm so sorry, Shania. But this story's still But hey, listen, if you laugh about me having to take a bike to work, we're even, okay? Just don't laugh at my face right now because it still hurt a little bit. It's still a little tender. All of that to say, if she can forgive me and still have great conversations with me after me doing something that terrible to her in her younger years at that, how can I not exercise some sort of forgiveness in order to maintain the family structure? She now has a kid. I now have a niece, and I just hope to be a family. I hope to have a stable family structure where I can help my niece and grow with her and watch her grow because I need her just as much as she's going to need me, right? If I didn't make it a point to forgive and to try to forgive and to find the beauty in such a terrible situation, I would be ruining the relationship that I could have with that little girl, as well as my sister. She was my first best friend. We slept this far apart for so many years. When I think about forgiveness, this song comes to mind. This one in particular, because Shania definitely had this CD when we were growing up. She got it for Christmas, and we used to play the CD a lot. It's Christina Aguilera's Fighter, and the lyrics go, "After all you put me through, you think I despise you, but in the end, I want to thank you because you made me stronger. Well, I thought I knew you, thinking that you were true. Guess I couldn't trust, call your bluff. Time is up because I've had enough. You were there by my side, always down for the ride. But your joy ride just came down in flames because your greed sold me out in shame. After all of your stealing and cheating, you'd probably think that I'd hold resentment for you. But oh no, you're wrong. Because if it wasn't for all that you tried to do, I wouldn't know just how capable I am to pull through. So I want to say thank you because it makes me that much stronger, makes me work a little bit harder, makes me that much wiser. So thanks for making me a fighter. You made me learn a little bit faster, made my skin a little bit thicker, makes me that much smarter. Thanks for making me a fighter." The word fighter, synonyms for the word fighter are competitor, warrior, champ, contender, right? And it's defined as a person who does not easily admit defeat in spite of difficulties or opposition. The way that we can look at our trauma and our pain in order to make attempts at forgiving, you need to look at how it's helped you. What did that situation do inside of you that helped you to be better? Let me tell you, being 153 miles away from home, in the middle of nowhere, seeing a old Western town, literally, with the tumbleweed and all that, seeing it and knowing that no matter how long I walked, I probably wasn't going to reach anything, turned a switch in my brain. I remember when it flicked and it turned from desperation to resourcefulness. I felt my brain go from, oh my God, I'm stuck here. This is terrible. I had a panic attack. I had an entire panic attack. I cried all night long. It was terrible. And there was no Wi-Fi, y'all. There was no Wi-Fi, no cell signal. I couldn't even call someone and cry to them about it. And I was 153 miles away. Who was gonna come pick me up, right? It flicked something in my brain to where resourcefulness kicked in. I now call myself like someone that searches a lot for loopholes. There is always a loophole. I learned this because of that situation. I learned that there was always a loophole. There was always a way around. There was always a way to manipulate a situation, even if you just break even rather than losing. You don't have to lose. You choosing not to forgive and to hold this grudge and to be angry, all you're doing is making yourself lose. We don't lose. There's no such thing as, the only L's we take around here are lessons, not losses. Now, you know we got to take it back to the word, because that's what all this is what matters, right? Now, Ephesians 4:26 through 32 says, "And don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you're still angry, for anger gives a foothold to the devil. If you are a thief, quit stealing. Instead, use your hands for good, hard work, and then give generously to others in need. Don't use foul or abusive language. I'm working on it, God. He know. Let everything you say be good and helpful so that the words will be an encouragement to those who hear them. And do not bring sorrow to God's Holy Spirit by the way you live. Remember, He has identified you as His own, guaranteeing that you will be saved on the day of redemption. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, harsh words, and slander, as well as all types of evil behavior. Instead, be kind to each other, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, just as God, through Jesus Christ, has forgiven you. That's in the word, y'all. It tells you everything you need to know right there. And it tells you why not. Let's take it a step further if that wasn't enough for you. Matthew 6:14 says, if you forgive those who sin against you, your heavenly Father will forgive you. But if you refuse to forgive others, your Father will not forgive your sins. I say all this to say, figure it out, y'all. Take the steps. The first step, tell God. Not because He don't know, but because He cares and wants your permission to move. Stop being out here seeking revenge. God also says, vengeance is mine. And let me tell you, I let my Father fight all my battles. And I feel bad for my enemies, to be honest. But for the record, though, it also says not to celebrate when you see how they get their vengeance, right? So just keep that in mind. Romans 12:19 says, dear friends, never take revenge. Leave that to the righteous anger of God. Let's spread the sobriety cheer by sharing our forgiveness stories. Who have you forgiven lately? Yourself counts too. Share your stories with the hashtag #ForgiveToMove. Your story might just be the nudge someone needs to let go and live on. That's all for today. I'm your host, Dominique Spinelli. This is To The Last Drop. Please tell your friends, like, share, comment, subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, give me 5 stars, okay? Thank you. And be sure to turn on your notification bell so that you know every single time I post. All right, that's it for today. Have a great day. I love you so much. Go be great. Bye.
Now, and I'm paying my dues because what I've been manifesting is right there. It's right there. And that's why I'm going through the hell that I'm going through, because it's right there. But like I said, I'm not gonna lose. I'm not gonna lose, yo. I'm not gonna lose. So don't count me out.